Welcome to 2016 Presidential Candidate Interviews. Today I am interviewing Meridi Richardson Bosley. She is running as a Democrat. Hello, Meridi, and welcome to the interview.
Hi, and thank you for inviting me and calling me.
Thank you for participating. How are you doing today?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm doing great. Let's give the listeners a chance to get to know you. I'll ask you some personal icebreaker questions.
Okay.
Describe your family.
Well, me and my husband have been married for 23 and 3/4 years. That means that we got married on leap year day in 1992. So we've only had actually 5 anniversaries. I proposed to Roger when we was celebrating Valentine's Day, and that was in 92, and then we got married on the leap year day. Roger has 2 children from a previous marriage, and together we have 7 grandchildren, ages 28 to 17. We have 6 great-grandchildren, ages 10 to 3, and we have 3 dogs and 5 fur babies that are in heaven.
Describe your employment and your work experience.
Well, this is a long one because I am kind of old, but I've been working since I was 16 years old. My first job was a concession stand at a movie theater, and when I was 18, my first real job was working at a produce warehouse, and I started working there doing data entry and customer service, and I worked there for about 3 years, and they closed down on my 21st birthday. But by the time I had finished working there, then I was a supervisor of customer service, and I had started learning the accounts receivable and accounts payables. And then my next job was, my next job was working at a vendor warehouse. We sold vending machines, candies and snacks and stuff like that. And I was working there for probably about 3 years. And I was doing accounts payables, accounts receivables, and customer service. And that company closed down. Then my next job was working at a organic produce, organic food warehouse. And I worked there for a very long time and decided since the last 2 jobs that I had closed down that I would kind of quit and see if my luck changed. So I quit after 3 years because they hadn't closed down. And then about 3 to 4 months later, I went back to them and says, "You still haven't closed down, so can I work for you again?" And so I worked for them until they actually did close down. And then me and my husband moved out here to Arizona, where we've been ever since. And I was working for I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to say the names. I was working for a tax company and bookkeeping company. And I worked there for almost 10 years, and she sold her business, and I started working at the company that I am now with, and I've been there for about 7-8 years. And I've been doing taxes and financial assistance stuff. So I know finances, and I know taxes.
All right. Sounds like you've had a lot of diverse experiences. The next question, what are your hobbies and your interests?
My hobbies and my interests. Well, I'm a life member of the Disabled American Veterans, and I'm also a member of the Tomahawk Village Block Watch. But what I like to personally do is I like to do a lot of reading, and I like to do Sudoku puzzles, and I like to play with my puppies, and me and my husband, we go fishing and shooting at the gun range.
Your favorite place to eat out?
My favorite place to eat is the Olive Garden but I also like Popo's Mexican food.
Okay. Do you have a favorite fast food place?
It's a difference between Taco Bell and Burger King.
All right. Favorite junk food?
Oh, my junk food is donuts.
Oh, man, that sounds good. Your favorite TV shows and movies?
Well, I really don't have any favorite movies, although I did like the Harry Potter programs. But I usually watch the Discovery Channel, and Shark Week is my favorite.
You mentioned something earlier. What do you have as far as pets?
Well, my husband and I, we have 3 pets. Manford, he is our youngest. He's 3 years old. He's a St. Bernard. And Shelby is our next one, and she is 6 years old, and she is a black lab. And Samantha Lynn is our oldest right now. She's 11 years old, and she is a Chow Mix. And that's all we have right now.
And the final icebreaker question, can you name a song that you consider maybe a life anthem, a motto, something that represents you?
Well, you know, I've been thinking about that, and I really could not come up with a song. The only thing that I could think of is not something appropriate to say on an interview.
Okay. Now for the serious questions. The first one, probably the most obvious, why are you running for president?
Well, I've thought about this. I thought about this back at the beginning of the year, and the reason why I am running is I really, well, let's just put it this way. I had a dream that I needed to run. I felt compelled to run for president. And I don't know why. I had it 3 weeks in a row, and it's like, okay, I'll listen to my dream, and I will run for president.
Okay.
That's part of it, but I also think that the people that are in office right now, they are, I can't say that they're doing bad because, well, I think they are. They're not listening to what the American people want. And I think it's time that someone got into office that is going to listen to what the American people want.
Okay. Next question. What abilities do you bring to the office of president?
What abilities do I bring to the office? Well, I know when to make a stand and when to let things slide. I know when to say no. I'm a very tough person. I'm not going to I wouldn't let Congress walk all over the presidency. I wouldn't let other foreign countries walk all over the United States. And I know how to balance a budget, and I know how to stick to a budget, and I know how to say no when someone is trying to go off the budget.
Are there any presidents you have a positive opinion of who have aspects of their presidency you would want to be like or emulate?
Well, I thought about this, and the only ones that I could think of is George Washington, because he was the very first, and since I'm not a real politician, then I would like to think that, you know, he was for the American people. He brought them together, and I think that I would be able to do that. So I think it would be George Washington.
Are there any presidents you have a not so favorable opinion of who have aspects of their presidency you would not want to emulate?
I would have to say on that one that it would be Richard Nixon. He was, I'm not saying he wasn't a good president, but he was a corrupt one. So some of the things that he did was probably good, but he was corrupt.
Are there any functions of government you'd like to decrease or abolish?
Government that I would like to decrease or abolish. I would like to get rid of the CIA and actually assimilate it into the Homeland Security, because they're both basically doing the same jobs. And that's the one that I would get rid of.
Okay. Are there any functions of government that don't exist that you think should exist? Is there anything in existence that should be added to or increased?
Increased or decreased? I'm sorry, increased or added to the
Yes.
functions of government. Well, I would like to see more police and military. And the reason is because crime isn't going away. And the officers, people are not signing up to be officers. They're not signing up to be in the military. And, if it's like my neighborhood, I live in a good neighborhood, but we still have crime here. And according to the last block watch that I went to, in my area, there is only 11 officers working on duty at one time. And 11 officers in a 3 square mile, well, actually it's probably about a 5 square mile, is not very much. And it takes a while for them to come to the area when you have a call. And in the way that like say there's 700 officers here in the citywide, but it's a big city, and they're working different shifts, and say that they're hiring about 200 more, but they're not getting rid of. Some of them's going on vacation, some of them goes to retirement, and that's about 350 a year. And so we're still going to be short by 150 officers. And I think that, and if neighborhoods are like mine, then a lot of neighborhoods are 150 officers short. And I think we need more officers.
Next question. Describe your stance on taxes, taxation.
Okay, my stance on the taxation. Well, I know that a lot of politicians want to have a flat rate for everybody, but I don't think that's going to work. It may work for the states, but it may not. But I don't think it's going to work for the government. I think that what needs to happen is that we need to start making sure that the corporations are taking their fair share of the taxes. We got hundreds of corporations out there, 500 at least, that we know of, and they have so many tax breaks that they're not paying any taxes at all. And I think that that's some of the problem, is that the corporations need to quit getting their tax breaks. And I think that if the businesses that are sending their jobs overseas, I think the businesses should be charged a tax penalty for that. But I also think that they should be given a tax break if they bring their businesses back to the United States.
Okay, another question. Describe your stance on the abortion pro-choice issue.
This is a tough issue because, personally, I don't think it has anything to do with the president, that the president should not have any say whatsoever about abortion, other than his own personal opinion. It's not something that I personally would do. I've never had one. I never would. But I think it's up to the mother and the father of the child. If the mother and father both agree that it's the best decision, then they need to have an understanding of the consequences of what happens after the abortion. There's guilt, there's pain, there's the survivor guilt, there's just so many side effects, depression, that they really need to think about this decision. And I think it's up to both the mother and the father, except for in a case of rape. If a woman is raped and she ends up pregnant, then I think that is her decision and her decision alone.
Okay, another much different question. What role should our military play in the world?
In the whole world, not just the United States.
Correct.
Okay, I think that we should have a strong military role in our country to protect our borders. Okay, but I do believe that we should help out other countries.
How would you handle immigration and border security?
Okay, this one, I think that all of the illegal aliens should be deported because they are breaking our immigration laws. I think that, immigration is great. I have no problem with immigration as long as they come in here legally. If they don't come in here legally, then they're breaking our laws, and that makes them a criminal, and they should be deported. But they should also be able to be listed on a waiting list so that the people who are applying to come in legally can get here first, and they just have to wait until their name is called.
How do you perceive the issues of race and discrimination in America? Do we still face challenges on this issue?
Yes, we will always face challenges on this issue. Why? I don't know, because everybody is the same race. They just happen to be different colors. People call themselves African Americans. They call themselves Chinese Americans, Mexican Americans. If they are born in the United States, they are Americans. If they want to be African Americans, Chinese Americans, Mexican Americans, then they should go back over to Africa, China, or Mexico and see how great their country is. They need to be just Americans. We were founded as a United States, and everybody is grouping themselves into different things, which is uniting us. So I think that they should start being Americans.
Next question. What role should the federal government play in health care?
The role of the government in health care. The only role that I think the government should have in health care is to get the pharmacies and the big insurance companies to lower their prices. The government should not force everybody to have insurance because people can't afford it. Even with the help of the government, people still cannot afford health insurance. And it's ridiculous, and it's because the pharmacies and the insurance companies do whatever they want.
What priority would you give the repair of infrastructure, and what should the federal government's role have in maintaining infrastructure?
And that is like the road repairs and stuff?
Roads, power, yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that the government should be repairing and making the state routes, not the state routes, the interstates. I think the interstates should be taken care of by the federal government, and anything else should be taken care of and maintained by the states. But I also think that there are different ways of taking care of the roads. Instead of putting down asphalt, they should be putting down something else that will last longer. I saw an article about making roads out of recycled tires. And that sounded like a good idea. It gets rid of old tires, and it makes the roads better. They're not so slippery when they're wet, and just, like a tire. And there's also an article that I read about the solar lights that are roads that are made out of solar lights, but that would be for smaller towns and stuff, or maybe airports. I think that I think the government should have windmills or something that will help generate the electric and solars. I think they should be doing stuff with solar.
Okay, next question. Some people think there's a conflict between gathering intelligence on terrorists and maintaining personal liberties and freedoms. What do you think is the proper balance on maintaining personal liberties and collecting information on terrorists?
I do not think that the government should be listening in to everybody's conversations, everybody's webmail, everybody's Facebook. I think that is a violation of their privacy. If the CIA and, if they go into Homeland, I think that if they have an idea who the terrorist is, they should be able to get a court order, a search warrant, whatever they need to listen to those certain people. I don't think that they should be listening to everybody.
The next question is kind of a sensitive topic, but a lot of Americans care about it. There's really not necessarily a right or wrong answer. It's just something people are concerned about. What role does faith, religion, spirituality, etc. play in your life? And what type of role would it play for you as president?
Well, I am more spiritual than I am religious. I grew up as Baptist, but I don't go to church. I don't think I need to go to church to learn the Bible. If I want to learn the Bible, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to read the Bible. I try to do the 10 Commandments, but, I'm human. So I believe in God. I believe in the Bible. I think that every person is different how they interpret the Bible. And how would it affect me being as president? It's not, because I'm going to make the best decision for the American people.
Okay, next question. Be a forecaster of sorts. Predict a major problem facing our country that maybe nobody is addressing, or very few people are addressing.
Okay, the first one is, I think that we have a problem with climate control. I think that it's really bad out there. I think it's the same as what the scientists are saying, that some people are saying there's no climate change, but you can tell it by the Arctics. They're losing their water. or they're icebergs. I think that needs to be addressed. I think that the emissions control needs to be addressed. I guess the United States is one of the worst producers of the climate change, and I think that needs to be addressed. And I think that the rainforests and the animals need to be addressed. You know, some of these animals are getting ready to be going extinct, and they're not doing anything about it. You know, I just read an article today on the African elephants. You know, there's over 1,000 elephants a year that are killed for their tusks, and they're almost extinct. So I think something needs to be done about that.
Okay, next question. Everybody has things they're really good at and things they're not so good at, strengths and weaknesses. What are a few of the things you may not be so good at, and what would you do to compensate for those?
Well, I think my weakness right now is that I am not a politician, and I don't know all the things that are involved with being a politician, but I'm a quick learn, and I think that if I got the right people that would be advisors and teachers, that I could make that a strength instead of a weakness.
Are there any other issues you would like to discuss, anything that has been covered by the interview?
Well, there wasn't anything about gun control.
Go for it.
I don't think that we should be getting stricter on the gun controls. I think we need to get stricter on the criminals, because it's not the guns that are, well, it's the guns that are killing people, but it's, you know, just because they shoot the bullet out. But it's the people that are shooting people, and I really think that we need more control over people. Well, I can't say control, because we don't want to control people, but we do want to control what they do with a gun, I guess. I'm saying this wrong, so this is coming out all wrong.
That's okay. I think you're just trying to say we need to keep an eye on the people who shouldn't be getting guns, maybe? Something like that?
Well, yeah, something like that. Okay. Because it's not the guns, mm-hmm. You know, it's the people that are using the guns.
Right. Guns don't kill people, people kill people. That.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I also think that something needs to be done about all the politicians that are in office. The American people need to get new people in there. Mm-hmm. They should not be making a career. It's not supposed to be a career in Congress. It's supposed to be go in there, do your term, and get out, and let somebody else come in. And I think that needs to be addressed. And I think the voting, or not the voting, but
so you're kind of for term limits? Yeah.
Well, yes, I believe that there should be term limits, but I also think that the voting should be done differently also, because, you know, I'm running for president, but nobody has heard of me until you called.
Right. Well, that's one of the hopes of what I'm doing is if I can get all of the candidates in kind of like one area of the internet, then maybe somebody, you know, with a bigger voice can say, hey, if you're not happy with what is being presented, here's another place you can go look. There's
but see, the newspapers, mm-hmm. I mean, I emailed every station here in Arizona, and I got one reply, right. And says, well, I looked at your webpage, and I didn't really see anything interesting. Mm-hmm. So I think that needs to be addressed. Okay. Because they're just showing the politicians that are running. They're not showing mm-hmm. the American people.
Right. Is there anything else?
No, not that I could think of at this moment.
Okay, final thing, closing remarks in maybe 2 minutes or less. Can you tell us why we should vote for you?
Well, I'd like to thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I think that people should vote for me because I am for the American people. I'm not just saying this. I am. I listen to my friends, my family, people on the streets, and what they want is basically the same thing that I want. And if they vote for me, then I will listen to them and try to give it to them.
Okay, thank you for participating in the interview. Thanks again to my listeners for listening. Be sure to check back in the future for more candidate interviews. Have a good day, and remember to keep informed and keep involved. Thanks again for the interview.